Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate taking the time out of your evening to be on the call. We've got lots to share with you, so hopefully you'll find it a really informative session. We will be recording, as I said, and we'll share that afterwards. I know there's quite a lot of people that couldn't make it, so we'll be able to put that onto a link and share it afterwards, and you can share it with other people as well within your clubs. If you've got any questions, we'll kind of give you an opportunity after each section to ask any questions, but also please use the chat. There's a few of us on the call, so we will try and answer the questions as they come up. So just to introduce ourselves, my name's Yvette Hayward. I'm the Growth Officer for Women and Girls. We've also got Kirsty Sayers on the call, who's the Women's Marketing Executive for RFU. And then we've got Chris Sigsworth, who is Schools and Colleges Manager. And then Vicky and Jess. Jess is the Growth Activator for the Northeast, and Vicky is Growth Activator for the South. Myself, Kirsty, Jess and Vicky are all part of the Rugby World Cup Impact Programme. So we've all joined the RFU in the last couple of years as part of the preparing and the excitement that we start to build around the Rugby World Cup. So really exciting time. Really great to have you all on the call. I'm going to start with a little bit of an overview about Love Rugby, give you just a kind of insight into how the campaign has started and how we're driving that. And then I'm going to pass to Kirsty, who's going to talk through some of the social media side of it, and to Chris, who will talk through the schools, engaging with schools. We've got some examples, and then hopefully at the end we will have a little bit of time for you to share your examples. I'm sure there's some really good examples that you've got to share, but also answer any questions as well. So just to give you I think a little bit of an overview of the recruitment campaign. Love Rugby was kind of launched last year. It's the first campaign that we've had for girls rugby. Its purpose really was to raise the profile of girls rugby, have a presence and a recruitment drive to support clubs, to be able to show the imagery, trying to challenge some of those perceptions of girls rugby. So as you can see on the screen, we've got three age groups. One kind of the younger ages, that's more like primary age, 9 to 12-year-olds. And a lot of the assets that we've created around that are about having fun, driven very much by words like fun, friendship, and we've got different taglines that go with that. The 12 to 15-year-olds is really focusing on their friendship side of things. The social side is so important to girls at that age, and we know, you know, that they want to feel that part of that team, and the camaraderie that you get through being part of a team is a real key motivator. So really trying to emphasize that. And then looking at the kind of later ages of teenagers, 17, 18-year-olds. And that's very much about them preparing for adult life, you know, getting ready for the skills and thinking about what those next steps are as they go past to 18. So, you know, pushing forward is some of the language that you can see on that. We've got different imagery, we've got different language, different terminology for each of those age groups, and then we've got different assets, and Kirsty will talk a little bit about them, and in particular as well the summer activity programme. So just a little bit of an overview as well, the summer activity programme, which is why you're all here. So, you know, great that you've registered. We've got 200 clubs now registered to be part of the programme, which is fantastic. We've got, it's the first time we've run this. It's the first time that we've had the Love Rugby campaign, and this is like is a way that we're trying to support clubs to engage with the campaign, but also use it as an opportunity to try and grow your girls' teams and recruit new girls into your club. So first bit is the registration. We've got another week for clubs to register as part of that. And then we'll give you some support over the next couple of weeks in terms of this webinar, and then we'll be sending out some templates and other ways to support you as well. Then asking you guys to run taster sessions. I've had quite a few different emails where, you know, clubs have been doing some of this work, and it's not dissimilar as well to the Inner Warrior camps for those of you that have been involved in delivering them. So putting on an event, what that looks like is up to the club. How you want to run that is down to you guys, but it's really about giving girls the opportunity to come along to the club, give them a really positive experience, and then hopefully by following that up with some summer activity afterwards, keeping them involved in the club, and also girls that are already maybe in the club, giving them an opportunity to keep coming over the summer and hopefully help them to stay engaged and return again to next season. So what this means for you, like what the clubs will get from being part of this program is, well, the first one is you'll all receive a banner. We're just having them kind of printed at the moment, so they should be with you in the next few weeks, certainly by the end of April. So you'll have them ready for when you can start to run the recruitment camps. So that's the idea, is that is just a really welcoming sign that girls can see themselves playing rugby, put it out on the road so people can see it as they're driving past, or you know, at the clubhouse. So on arrival, we know that it's really important that girls see some of that imagery of other girls playing rugby. So hopefully that's a real positive, that you'll all receive that and can put that up. We've got another webinar planned for the 17th of April, and that's to help you kind of start to prepare for that summer activity. So that will be led by our coaching department, and they will be giving top tips around coaching girls, you know, some of the uniqueness around the differences between coaching girls and boys, and also, you know, just thinking about how girls feel welcome, how you give them that really welcoming environment, so they feel like they're part of the club and they feel like they fit in and that's where they belong. We've also got a webinar on the 16th of May to support you with registrations, and that will be able to kind of talk you through the process, answer any questions. We'll give you some resources to help you market your recruitment camps, and Kirsty will talk you through those in just a moment. To support the summer activity, we'll provide you with some session plans, and the idea is that with an experienced coach, hopefully that will also be an opportunity for those of you that are looking to recruit new coaches, that you could give these cards, and with a bit of support from an experienced coach, that's a really good way of recruiting and bringing new people into the teams that you're running. And for those coaches that maybe are new and do get involved in helping any of the delivery, there will be the offer for them to sign up for vouchers to attend some future training as well. And then finally, you know, this is kind of the focus is on a recruitment and getting new girls registered in your clubs. So there'll be a competition for clubs who have an increase in, you know, see the number of girls registered in their club going up, and 10 clubs will be able to win a £500 kit package of Love Rugby goodies. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the summer activity programme specifically. I'm going to hand over now to Kirsty, who will talk through some of the marketing support and how you can make the most of the Love Rugby assets, and also just using your social media to kind of maximise impact. So handing over to Kirsty.
Thanks, Yvette. Yeah, I'll just do a bit of a whistle stop tour about through some of the marketing bits that will be available to use. But we'll have some resources sent through to you in due course. Next slide, please. Yeah, so there's lots of Love Rugby resources already. Hopefully, Yvette's just shown you the key visuals. We've also got some videos, and everything can be found either on the Love Rugby webpage or the club resources page, which I've both linked on these slides. Resources include the social assets, social frames, poster templates, but also our activation guide, which kind of has some tips, a bit like what Yvette was mentioning, how to welcome girls to your club, social media tips, but also there's a guide there on how to use the assets that we're putting together that you can personalize for your clubs. And as part of the summer activity, there'll be obviously the Love Rugby key visuals, which you've already seen, new Love Rugby frame for the summer activity, so you can make your own assets, and then Love Rugby poster template, which again you can use. That will be in Word, so it's available to anybody to use, hopefully. So just a quick example of the social media frames. We've started using these to try and make them more accessible and easier for clubs to use their own players' pictures. As you can see, if you have something like Canva, which is free, you can just put your player picture in, then you also upload the frame at the same time, place that on top, and then they're really nice ways to just to kind of bring Love Rugby into your social media channel, say Instagram. But if you're wanting to promote your Love Rugby account, for example, you can add some text on there as well. I would advise trying to pick a picture if you're going to add text that has maybe a lot of sky, like the one I've used here, or maybe a lot of grass, so it's not too busy where you're putting your text. And also just be careful not to put all your text on there. Social media is very visual, so put all the information in the comments or the caption on Facebook or Instagram rather than trying to overload the information on your picture. As I said, there is a guide on kind of how to use some of these templates and assets that we've set up, which again I've linked on this slide for you to look at in your own time. And this is just an example of a club that I've seen using the assets already. It's a nice mix of, as you can see, the Love Rugby frames, but also the key visuals in there as well. They've managed to use pictures of their players, and it gives you the opportunity to add your club logo in, etc. So just show this to kind of bring it to life in a bit more of a relatable way. Yeah, so quickly on to social media. I don't want to teach people how to suck eggs, but just to kind of overview, Facebook's all about information, and this is probably where most of your parents are going to be at and using. So have a think about what the information is you're putting there. It's a bit more informational instructions about training, matches. Still post some fun stuff and use the hashtag Love Rugby there. Instagram is all about the photos. So, like I said, when you're posting stuff on Instagram, just get the pictures really exciting and engaging. Don't worry about loads of text on the pictures. Fill that in your captions below, because that's also where the algorithm will kind of search for those things. This is a place to share memories from training sessions or matches, encourage players and parents to take photos and tag the club's account or the girls section's account, depending on how your club manages your social media. And it's also an opportunity. Some of your girls might be the right age to be on Instagram and might still use it. So maybe post interactive stories like polls for one of the drills you get to do at training and stuff to get those involved and sharing it. TikTok is all about video. And this is where I think most of the kids are these days. That makes me sound really old. But to engage with girls, get and follow the latest trends, maybe getting the girls involved as well. We saw some girls in TikTok dances at a festival recently. Maybe that's something they do as a bit of a team bonding thing and you can share, and it's a fun way, and also they get involved and they're promoting their club because they'll be sharing the TikToks themselves. And then lastly, Twitter or X. This is where you want to make people get involved and stay involved. So again, this is probably similar to Facebook. You're going to keep sharing key information about sessions and team information. And this is a place where people can have conversations. So maybe sharing the benefits of girls playing rugby and what your club has to offer all the girls. And then just moving on to 5 top tips for success on social media when it comes to posting. So firstly, young girls are mobile first. And so try and use the right ratios for the different channels. As a rule, square or 1x1 is good for Insta, X, and Facebook. And then vertical, so 9x16, is TikTok or Instagram stories. So those are the ones that are going to look best on a phone when you're looking at them, and just makes it more user friendly. 2, grab attention early. So there's so much on social media at the moment. It's really hard to so try and make yourself stand out and have a bit of purpose with your posts. Maybe it's you're running a competition within the girls, or maybe it's just like there's some really great shots from a match or some really nice stories coming through. Try and stand out a little bit. Number 3 is use different content on different channels. Like I've just mentioned, each channel has a bit of a different purpose. So try and mix it up a little bit. Like I said, Instagram might be a bit more just about the photos and the memories, and Facebook is a bit more informative, or Twitter is a bit more of a conversation starter. And be creative. Number 4, make sure your contact information is up to date and the links to your website are working so new players can get all the information they need. If you're starting to get interest through your social media, players will naturally go onto the websites. So it's really important that you continue their journey towards your club by giving them all the information they want. If you've got updated photos of the team, make sure that your current team are shared on those pages. Obviously, I know it's difficult with children sometimes, and where there's any contact details from managers and stuff, just make sure your club looks as exciting, as invested in the girls section as they might do the men's first team. So I think that's one thing to think about and go and take away, is just try and work out, if you go onto that website, your website, does it give a parent and a child all they want to know and really sell your girls section? Because that's obviously they've got to the point where they're really considering joining you. Let's seal the deal. And then on number 5, finally, just post regularly. So 2 to 3 times a week. That could be your training information, that could be photos and videos from your sessions, or just fun content with the players. And again, if you want any more guidance or information, I've linked the Growing the Girls Game document, which we've put together recently, which has more help on growing your girls section. And this is just an extra one from me. If you want more advice and to get more resources on marketing your club, I've included a link to like the marketing webinar education bit on the England Rugby website that Vet told me to include. So
brilliant, thanks, Kirsty. I appreciate there's a few links in there, so we can share the links with you, but we will also share the slides so you can go through and pick the slides up. Yes, in terms of somebody's just asked about using the photos, that's absolutely what they're there for. What we've done, because we had quite mixed feedback, which is understandable. So some clubs have their own photos, just wanted the frame. So that's where there's just a frame and you can edit and add your own photos. But then equally, like you say, some people don't always have some, good photos. It's not that easy to always get. So there's the imagery there where we've provided the photos, and then you can just add and edit kind of whatever text you want onto that imagery to kind of make it so it meets your needs, but you use the imagery that we've provided. So Hopefully, yeah, Chris has shared the links in the chat, but we will also share afterwards. So you'll be able to access all of the Love Rugby templates off the website. And then we will send out some kind of specific ones around the summer programme as well. Is there any other questions?
And
Sorry,
with
Kirsty.
that we can share, my colleague from our comms team's away at the moment, but he can include some bits on kind of how you can share like local newspapers to try and get your message wider. But I didn't really cover that today because it's not quite my area. But we'll include all that with the other templates and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Any other questions around social media or using the templates, or the kind of Love Rugby campaign marketing side of it, before we hand over to Chris to kind of start talking about the schools and how best to engage with schools? I think all the questions have been answered in the chat. Okay, I think we're all good. So handing over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Yvette, and good evening, everyone. Great to get the opportunity to speak to you. Can I just start by just paying a massive thanks to all of the stuff that you do, within your clubs, but also sort of from my lens within schools as well. Looking at the list of clubs on here, I know that loads of you have got some really good club school links and really work into that. So just a genuine thanks for us for that. So all the intent of this is going to be is just to talk through some bit of the landscape, some tips on how we might engage some schools to support your activity. Can I just have, if anyone is a teacher on this one, if you can just go into the reactions and just give us a thumbs up, because some of this bit, I don't want to necessarily teach you to suck eggs and you might come on and tell us a little bit more. But the first bit really in sort of just talking about school club links is just really understanding the landscape for schools at the minute. And as I say, those teachers on the call will be much more aware of this sort of locally. It's a little bit of a gloomy picture to start with, but I promise you I'm going to get more positive afterwards. But I think this frames everything at the minute. So some of you may be aware that some of the bigger focus on schools at the minute or within schools is around persistent absenteeism. And some of the data around that is scary, with over 1 million children who are classed as persistently absent. We're speaking to schools where young people haven't gone back to school since summer. So actually, if you speak to senior leadership teams within schools, their main focus is doing whatever they can to get young people into schools. And that can involve going around in a car to try and actually pick them up from their houses or wherever they are. So that's a really important bit. And linked to that as well, we've seen post-COVID as well, some of the behaviour pieces in school has really sort of fallen off the edge of the cliff. And actually what's really worrying, if you dig into the stats there, is that with some of our disengaged groups, that behaviour is worse. So for example, if you're from a Black community, you're at more risk of being expelled compared to others. If you're a Roma Gypsy community, you're more likely to be expelled. So some of those groups, that behaviour is, there's some real risk of exclusion. So if you're trying to speak to a member of senior leadership team, their focus isn't necessarily going to be on the delivery of sport or rugby per se. Thinking of the landscape of young people, and again, this probably helps with some of the context of what I'm about to say, they're telling us that they're more isolated than they've ever been, which is really interesting because we've just had Kirsty on. They're the most digitally connected age group that we've ever seen, but actually they're telling us they're really lonely. And actually that's a real concern. And again, more so within girls than other populations. And again, we've seen, again, COVID's kicked this off. We're finding that young people within schools are less physically active. And again, girls compared to boys, girls are less physically active. And again, if you look at the data from the Chief Medical Officer, which recommends 2 hours of PE a week, over half the country are getting less than that. So again, some real concerns and obviously all the knock-ons to that. In terms then of what that means in a PE and school sport focus, we're finding that staff time is less. Staff focus is more on some of the bits we've talked about, behaviour, delivery of lessons. There have been cuts within PE departments. And just quickly wanted to share an anecdote from here, and again, just set some context. We was in a conference a while ago speaking to a former PE teacher who'd been promoted within their school to work as head of literacy. And she was telling us that as soon as she got her promotion to head of literacy, which she would consider as a more important job within a school setting, her email workload fell by 80%, which is staggering. So again, if you're in a PE teacher, it's not just us as rugby clubs trying to do it. There may be more than that rugby club. There's 43 sports out there that are trying to engage with PE teachers. They're trying to arrange fixtures. So actually trying to cut above that noise is a really important bit. As I say, there is a lot more sports that are out there. And again, if you look at some of the data around that, sports like dodgeball and handball are becoming really popular now in the school setting. And we're one of many interventions that those PE staff will hear about. So as I say, that's some of the setting, but I think that presents us a real opportunity as rugby and the uniqueness of our game, that we are genuinely a game for all shapes and sizes, that we're underpinned by our core values. And up on the screen here, you can see some of the bits, which is feedback from young people that took part in rugby programs. And you can see on there that they're telling us that their social skills, for example, their resilience, self-esteem, confidence improved through doing rugby, that they performed better academically at school and are more physically active. And we know as well, and I'm sure that all you do dealing with young people on Sundays or through training, that actually some of the developments of their core values and how that transfers into their life, you can see that and evidence that. And I think that's a really important bit of when we're having conversations with schools, is that actually through the uniqueness of our sport, there are some developments in young people, thinking back to the first slide, that we can start to affect. And it's about us shouting about them. Now, of course, we're not the only sport that has teamwork. But again, I think there's something that we have as rugby, which we can evidence that we can. Thanks for that. The other side of this, it's good all to talk in stats, and part of our world is we live in them. But actually, some of the stories as well, and I'm sure within your clubs, you have stories of young girls that have been engaged from rugby, where rugby has really helped them become more active, build a friendship group, do physical activity where maybe they wouldn't have done, have helped their body confidence issues, for example. And on screen, I've just put some quotes down. Kirsty mentioned an event we ran at Twickenham last week with 30 schools from around the country. And here are some of the stories that the young people tell us around, some of them were playing touch, some were doing contact, but about how much it meant to them, about how impacted they got. And the bottom quote is from a club that engaged in the programme as well, that said to us, being involved in this, we got 6 girls engaged. So while there might be a gloomy picture in education, I think that we as rugby have some tools to do it. And I'll talk about that in a second. So how do we actually get into a school to start to have some of those conversations? I think from the outset, it's important to say there's no golden bullet, because if there was, every rugby club and every sports club around the country would do it. There's also being candid and open. You can apply all of these, but we still might not be able to get in. And we sadly do have those examples, but there are lots of different ways. So most of us would normally think of PE stuff. But again, there's some other groups of people that we might look to use. There might be an academic teacher. And again, we found that there are quite often, for example, a history teacher, a geography teacher that we wouldn't necessarily consider knowing, but they've got a connection through the club. And actually they're rugby keen and rugby active. And that actually might be our main contact going in. The biggest thing that we find is friends recruit friends. So actually players can be a really good way to get into, your existing players may be a really good way to go in. SLT is senior leadership team. Again, understanding they're busy, but if we're going to senior leadership team and talking the right language about how we can support them with academic performance, social skills, student engagement, physical activity, that's something really compelling to senior leadership teams, so principals, deputy heads, etc. In some counties, we've got really proactive county schools unions. County schools unions basically aligned to the counties, and they've got some really good contacts in. And again, we can make sure we feed all of them. The other thing as well that works really well is school games organisers. So school games organisers, there's 450 of them around the country. They're tasked with running school playing opportunities. And they'll have some specific focus depending on the area. One size doesn't fit all, but a lot of their activity is around girls, attracting disenfranchised groups, etc., etc. For tips on how to find your school games organizer, again, this one necessarily isn't rocket science. If you go on Google and put in school games organizer, name of your town, you'll find them. They're all there. Sadly, I'm not allowed to share them all with you because that's they've asked us not to, but they are easily findable on there. So there are some ways that we can get into schools. So once we've made that contact, I'll look at Yvette to do we've got a magic nod between us. Once we've got that contact, as I've said before, it's around making the sell, what makes us unique. And it might just be, hey, we're the local rugby club, we would love to do some rugby with your young people and your girls. That might be enough to get us in. And in a number of cases, it still is. You know, PE staff are looking for support, varied offers, and that can help. But actually, with the backdrop we've talked about, what really impacts it is making the sell. So what are the benefits of rugby? And I've listed them up on here. As I said before, we know that it gets people physically active. We've got so much evidence, anecdotal and hard data from young people that said, hey, look, we're always picked last for football, for netball, for something. But actually, because rugby's a game for all shapes and sizes, we were picked first. And actually, we've got a really important part to play in the game. We know that it's a team sport. It develops the connection, which we talked before about. Young people are lonely. This is a great way to get people engaged. It can develop people's confidence, body image, as we've talked about. And as I've said, as part of selling the benefits of rugby, use that as an opportunity to sell stories of your club or the young people as well. Lots of schools, won't be a surprise, will be in for, well, how can you support us? And actually, lots of rugby clubs are primed to do that in terms of facilities, volunteering opportunities, not necessarily coaching or refereeing, but actually within social media. And to Kirsty's point, so many of these young people are really socially connected. There are lots of volunteering opportunities for them. Some clubs might be in the position to offer some equipment or some staff training, providing that. And again, some clubs might be in a position to support the delivery of curricular or extracurricular activities. And again, knowing the schools, they'll probably snap your hand off for that work. And again, linked to some of the things that Yvette talked about before, our coaching team can talk about some really good ways of engaging young people with that. The other bit around the sell is that we, as I say, we have something for everyone. We know that there are some girls, some students that love the contact game. And we heard that when we did some of the contact stuff there. They were saying they love getting muddy, they loved making the tackle, they love doing whatever the boys are going to be able to do. And for some schools and some young people, that's 100% going to be the sell. We know that for others, that's not necessarily going to be the sell at the moment, and actually might be a barrier to them attending. So actually, selling that we do actually have a format that's suitable for all the students. And again, it's one of our core values, isn't it? Is actually that it's a fun sport to play. And again, I don't think we should shy away from that aspect. So once we've found out who to speak to and we've made the sell, the next bit, it's almost like it flows in seamlessly, is how then we can make the transition. And some of these would be my top tips for this. And this is where, in a way, there's no real rocket science to this. The clubs, and we'll take some examples, the clubs that do this well in terms of transition probably do some of these bits. And that comes around running an event at the club. And it doesn't have to be a big 20 school primary or secondary event. Actually, just getting some local schools down, 2 or 3 secondary schools, for example, running an event, letting them see the facility, letting them know that it's a fun, engaging place to be. Putting some food on or some drink is a really important way of doing that. And we would sort of talk about that as a sort of traditional sports development model, but doing some in-curriculum work or some extracurricular clubs, running an event in there. And we do know that some teachers, and again, we might see some reactions, and they'll probably nod if they're on the call, get a little bit competitive. So if there is a festival at the local rugby club, that's a really good engagement bit. There will be some barriers, some perceptions that people will have about joining a rugby club. And that could be around the travel, the distance it takes to get there, the cost of that. And again, we hear quite a lot that for some families, with the cost of living crisis, even the word club makes it sound like a luxury and something that they can't afford, given the choice between some of the other expenses they have to do or joining a club. So again, just thinking about the terminology there. But whatever you can do as rugby clubs to address some of those barriers, some of the perceptions that they may have of the game, is really going to help those young people make the transition. Again, probably a number of you on the call are parents. You are the absolute key to this. And again, that's a key bit for clubs to consider. So again, thinking about making sure that young people have a great welcome, but what's the welcome for parents when they get there? Is the tea, coffee, for example, available? Does the photos in the clubhouse actually seem fully inclusive and not sort of of a team that used to play in the 1920s in black and white and were all male? So again, just making sure that environment for parents is real quality, and they'll have confidence of bringing their child to it. As I said before, friends recruit friends. It's the biggest way that people get recruited into rugby clubs, but in any club. So again, think about how you can incentivize your existing players to recruit some other ones. That might be a reduction of subs or a t-shirt or tickets to a Red Roses match, for example. And as we've said before, thinking about the offer that you have within a club. So we've been making, across the whole school game, quite a significant drive on the non-contact format. That's not to take away from the contact bit, that's its own right, and that's a significant product. But if the young people are playing non-contact in a school and have taken part, for example, in a Love Rugby event or a Touch the Twickenham event, making sure that the club have a non-contact offer so they can transition seamlessly, and not expecting them to go and do full contact or stand on the wing or bits that we might see. So there's some of the top tips for the transition bits there. Some of you will be saying, what money is there? I know that's the question that we all most commonly get. And Yvette, I know you're going to signpost some bits there. Yvette also did talk about the Love Rugby summer activity stuff where there is that. What I would say is there's a couple of bits from there, and every local authority, every county sports partnership will have a different model. So it's impossible for us to sort of go and navigate all of them. There is a free online grant finder where you can search in your criteria local area and it will come up with some things that are available. Historically, and I'll look for Karen or Yvette to give me a number, I believe we funded around 200 under 12 clubs this year to support them with the growth of the girls' game and links into local schools. So just keep your eye out for that information, which will come from Yvette and the team. Constituent bodies, some may have some funding to that, as may local authorities. If you're working in the primary school space, there is some funding available there as part of a PPA planning and assessment time that teachers get. And again, we'll probably get some really good models of good practice from clubs where they've used that. And again, if you've got some local businesses can be keen to sponsor this type of activity through their CSR budgets. As I say, there's no one size fits all with this one, and it's all there. The only bits that we would ask you to consider, as well as every area being different, is the sustainability of some of this. And we've seen, especially with our FU programs, but the same across sport, is that we quite often heavily fund something in 1 year. There becomes a dependency on that. But as soon as that funding dries up, those club links stop. So what we'd be saying is consider how some of those links that you might develop are actually sustainable. So they're reliant on teachers being there, for example, or the relationships and having a decent program, not dependent on sums of funding. So hopefully that's given a bit of an overview. As I say, Whistle Stop Tour, it'd be great to hear from different clubs that have got examples. And I think I'm going to hand over to Vicky to give you some of those.
Yeah, we're just going to hand over to Jess. There was one question, Chris, from Emily about working with the home education community. I don't know if that's something that we've thought of. I mean, maybe it's a bit of something that Emily, if that's something, a community that she's part of, that we could pick that conversation up separately. But I know, and Emily's kind of alluded to it in a comment, that it's a growing community and something, there could be a value in understanding how we could engage with that group a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was just one other question, which actually referred back to the marketing from Alban in terms of what we're going to do around advertising the Love Rugby camps. I can see Kirsty's just switched her camera on, so she might add to that. I was just going to say, following this webinar, we will send out an email to everyone who's signed up to the programme, So asking them to register their camp. Again, similar if you've been involved in a warrior. So we would ask you to confirm the date of your camp, and we can then put that onto findrugby.com. So all of the camps would be searchable through that website. We would just need to know dates and locations, and we can advertise that. And then we would have a few different avenues in how we promote that. Kirsty might want to explain a little bit more, but I think yeah, we use different companies and agencies in terms of press releases and trying to raise the profile of looking at the findrugby.com so people can find those camps. And I guess what's really important is that we have a bit more information in terms of like a website or a Facebook page as well. So when you tell us the dates, if you've got that set up on a web page, so we can link to that. So then when people find out, oh, I can search and find my local club is running a camp on 15th of May. How do I find out more information about that? So if you're hosting that information somewhere, that will just be really helpful for the girls and parents to understand that. Yeah, so we will advertise those. Kirsty, I'll hand over to you just if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, I think you've covered it more or less, Yvette, but obviously it's a bit different to Allington and Warrior in terms of where it's for the girls. So we'll be looking at different ways we can advertise, whether it might be YouTube, where lots of kids go on to, or whether it's targeted in the parents. So there will be something to support once it's on Find Rugby. But what that looks like, we're trying to work out what's most effective given the age group, and you can't directly market. So like directly pay social media to 13-year-olds, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple of questions that have come up. The date that you need to know by, that I will share that in the email, but we'll probably look to put a date kind of middle of April. That just gives us time to make sure that we're advertising them in plenty of time for when the camps start. So yeah, we'll probably share the link so you can confirm the dates for your camps kind of in the next week, certainly, and then set a date 2 or 3 weeks after that. So you've got time to work with the club to work out the best date for you guys, and then we can have time to then put that onto Find Rugby and promote it through our different social media platforms, different marketing platforms and partners that we'll work with, and also for you guys as well to do that. I can see Lois has just put in a question. Have you signed up for the camps? So the camps is all part of the summer activity program. So when you sign up for the summer activity program, the camps is one element of that, and then the 4 weeks of summer activity is the kind of follow-up element of that. So yeah, if you've signed up for this, which you must have done because you're here, then you have signed up for that, so you will receive those emails following to that. Richard's comment: what support can we give for the under 18 age groups? The groups seem hardest to get. Yeah, I think, and Kirsty kind of just alluded that a little bit. So I think under 18s are, how we engage with them through social media. With, the much younger age groups, that's harder. It's more working with the parents. So we're trying to look at how we potentially use different social media platforms. We absolutely know that group are on social media. So how do we try to reach them? So yeah, we're looking at that. I think again with like the assets and the different kind of tailoring some of the messaging is also a really key part of that. Okay, so we'll carry on answering any questions, but I'm just going to hand over to Jess.
Apologies for any background noise. I'm currently in the corner of a very busy rugby club. But my example is very much Northeast Pacific because that's where I'm working, if you can't tell by the accent. The first one I've got is Hartlepool. So they actually have a volunteer schools liaison officer on top of a full-time role. They've got really good success in working with the school games organizer. and links with the clubs. They'd started with after school clubs, linking primaries as a transition through. They've hosted primary and secondary festivals at the club as a transition, and that's included through the Inner Warrior camps. That was how they brought them into the club and made them feel welcome, and that was through carousel activity, majority non-contact. When I've talked to Nick, who's at Hartlepool, she said anything through Facebook and Instagram sharing, so aunties, grandparents, uncles can share that. Like, don't underestimate that network that you can get from sharing among families. And then dropping leaflets and flyers at the schools with reception, making it a visible face, and get the head of Pete contact. The other one I've got is Ashington, who Ian on the hall will be very happy to see. But their example was welcoming the school into the club straight away. Sometimes volunteer capacity is a tough one to send the volunteers out into schools. So why not bring them to you like what they did? A really successful event where they also invited Northumberland College students who are sport and exercise students to come along. That's a really good offer for them to have some work experience, something to put into the belt, and a good way to introduce them to the club once again. So there's quite a few good examples, but those are the ones that I've put in with pictures from their socials, so you can all visualize it. I'll pass it off to Vicky. Hopefully you could all hear me okay.
Thanks, Jess.
Hiya. So I just wanted to sort of add a little bit more around the active partners, and how to probably engage with those active partners, because I cover the whole South, and in at least all of my CBs, the active partners have been brilliant about engaging with inactive girls. It seems to be a priority on all the active partners' priorities. And so being able to engage with that active partner and to be able to go, right, what are your school games organisers doing? But ultimately, what is on your agenda? What do you guys need to hit your numbers from a government participation, and then engaging them through rugby? So for the majority of the active partners that have said yes to rugby, this has been a way forward, is because it's been through girls. They're really open about dealing with primary school and secondary school, which has been really, really quite good. And I have one active partner in Gloucestershire who are going over the summer to be working with that under 18s group. It is a really hard group to engage with, and so it was very important to them that inactivity also meant engaging with those who are disengaged with activity. So that process is underway, and their action plan is being written at the minute. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they are going to deliver in that space for the college age group, but it will be delivered straight after Easter before they go on holidays, etc. The biggest example, the closest example I've had is in Surrey, where the active partner runs school games, and they run a large event towards the end of the year. But going backwards, they expect the school games organisers to run some kind of rugby event, and they try and earmark that alongside a club. So they try and engage with the club and really work together in partnership, whether that's facilities or volunteers or actually running and delivering the event. Then what they do is, after that one-off event, they then run a 6-week free trial period where the girls that sign up get to go to that club for 6 weeks for free and go and try non-contact rugby in an environment that suits them and their friends, and then they go and play as part of the school games. And it's all of these games deliver points to the schools, because for Surrey, the point system for competing is really important. But even though this is not competing, the schools are actually getting points for sending girls along and really encouraging and driving rugby. Now, after this fits nicely with the summer activity, and so then those clubs in Surrey will also get that uplift and support by the active partner, because they are driving the information highway from active partner down through to the schools about the rugby club and the active school games. And each year we've had clubs Old Reigatians being probably the most successful, where they have consistently grown girls by helping and supporting the active partnership, where I think now they've got full set at 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, and currently have really good pipeline numbers in the year 4 to, or the under 9s through to the under 11s mixed group. So they've delivered that for about 8 years alongside Active Surrey, and are one of the most successful clubs in Surrey. So some really good ideas, some really good practice by making the connections with your active partnerships and growing the relationship with your school games organizer. That.
Thanks, Vicky. I'm just trying to respond to Carrie in the chat, asking about the flexibility of taster sessions and how and when you run them. So instead of me typing it, I'll just say it. Yeah, the flexibility is up to you guys. Like, we wouldn't you know, say it needs to be on a set day or a set format. I mean, it's May, so it will be non-contact, and summer activity will be non-contact, but it's you can set the day. How many sessions you run, again, is flexible. When you run the sessions is flexible. What works for you in terms of access to facilities, coaches availability, that kind of thing. So yeah, we will provide some guidance. We'll provide 4 weeks of session plans. So hopefully that will, like I said at the beginning, give a little bit of support, especially for if you're trying to recruit new people, new coaches to get involved. But very much up to you guys to kind of work out how you think it will be most effective for your clubs. I think we're kind of almost there in terms of the slides that we've got, but you know, it'd be great to yeah, if anybody wants to come off and share any examples or have any thoughts. Like Chris said, I'm sure there's a few teachers that are on this call, so if they've got any kind of bits of wisdom that they feel like it would be valuable to share, then, you know, it's always really helpful, I think, to hear from within the education sector any kind of perspective or tips. That would be great. Or if, you know, just any other experience in terms of what's been effective with like social media or different things that you've been able to do. So, you know, appreciate not everyone wants to come off mic, so very happy to leave that open, and same with questions as well. Whilst I just give you a couple of minutes to think about that, I'll just talk through kind of what's next. And so as we've kind of said a couple of times now, we will send out an email hopefully by the end of this week with the different assets, with a toolkit that will give a bit of guidance about how we can help support the marketing of your camps, and also you know, some guidance. We're looking at creating some kind of letters for sending into schools, and yeah, just a few templates really to try and help make your life a little bit easier rather than having to create it all from scratch. Along with that, we will send out the link for you to register the date of your camp, and we'll give you a couple of weeks to complete that. There will also be links to the 2 webinars that I've mentioned, so the 17th of April and then the GNS webinar in May as well. We'll send out your banners. We're just looking at the best way of doing that. That'll either come from, if you have RFU staff member that is working with you, they might bring it along. Otherwise, we'll use the addresses that you've provided. So we'll make sure that they are with you in the next few weeks. And then kind of again, it'll maybe be a little bit later, but we'll send out the coaching cards and we'll give them to you as a hard copy, but also they will be available online because there'll be quite a lot of links to different activities and that kind of thing. So I think yeah, that's it from us in terms of what we've got to present. So we've only got a couple of minutes. We will finish at 8 o'clock as we promised. So I'll just have a quick look through any questions, if there's anything that needs answering. Yes, the 17th of April webinar will also be recorded. So a question there from Nick. The original girls hub clubs are consuming the newer girls teams in our area. Any solutions? Vicky, have you got any solutions that you'd give to them?
The solutions are always good. It's always been a hard one. It's always been probably top of a lot of clubs' agendas. It's probably something that if Neil wants to email me, I'm quite happy to just sort of have a bit of a offline chat, go just to find out, because the solutions are going to be bespoke to every area. Some places those hubs really do work, some places they don't. So I'm happy to, I'll just pop in the chat my email for him.
Okay, fab. Thanks, Vicky. Anybody got anything else that they would like to share with us before we finish? Or any other questions?
The only thing I would add, Yvette, is if that's okay, it's Auburn from Falerian's Rugby Club in Watford area. Something that we've found previously with that school connection is help with the transition where they see familiar faces in both environments. So either that's through their peer group and their friendships, girls coming down for the first time. Often we see them are very anxious, don't want to be there, until they kind of see that familiar face. So sometimes we've had teachers come along with the girls and they've arranged, for example, they'll come down to training, there'll be a face there, and we've utilised that. So if you can get those volunteers from schools, that will often help. So the girls just feel that little bit more comfortable on their first session.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alban. That's good tip. I see Ian's got his hand up.
Hi, Ian Douglas from Ashton Rugby Club. Thanks to Jess for the shout on the slide earlier on. One thing I was going to mention, which I don't know if it's sort of stating the obvious, but speaking to sort of similar coaches around the subject, is on the social media, don't necessarily just rely, or try not to rely on one person in the club to post everything out for you. For Ashton, what we do, we have a small group of people. With each person has a sort of dedicated to one area, either whether it be seniors, social functions, myself for youth rugby, and that just means if you want to push out information, you can do it instantly. And likewise, if you're getting people on there that are sort of asking questions or sending you messages, you can actually get on there and reply to them straight away. So you're not relying on one person looking after everything and then sort of saying, all right, we've been asked this question, what's the answer? And then them going back and sort of passing all that information on. It works really well if you can sort of actually get yourself added onto that, the club's Facebook, and you can just update that information so much quicker. And people really appreciate that sort of quick, sort of instant reply on things.
Yeah, definitely. I think social media is a bit of a personal thing, isn't it? And some people struggle with it. And I think definitely getting somebody who has a passion for it, they don't need to be doing everything else as well. They could just help out on that. But I think, yeah, it's sometimes social media logins become a bit of a mystery. And I know this from running the Ian Warrior camps that people struggle to know. So who's got what logins. So yeah, finding out who's got logins in the club and trying to make sure that the right people can get access to their pages to keep them up to date can be a real help. Okay, we are at 8 o'clock. So if there's no other questions coming up, I can't see anyone else, no other hands coming up. I think that's us done for the evening. So massive thank you. Really, really good to see so many of you on the call. Hopefully you found that a useful session. If you've got any follow-up questions for anybody, I know like you kind of think about things after the call and you think, oh, it'd be useful to find out about that, then please drop me a message. I can put you in touch with anyone else that's been on the call this evening or try and answer your questions. So yeah, great to have so many of you on the call. Thank you very much for your time. And look forward to working with you and hearing about you. and all the great stuff that happens over the summer. I will stop recording as well.